And we're back, ladies and gentlemen, live on the Philippe Matthews Show after hours. She's back with me. I'm so happy. She's part of our network now. Emunah Y'srael is, as you know, the creator of Soulonomics 101 and the author of The Angry Black Woman Syndrome Revisited and the Midbar Journal, which is a 12-step guide for examination and purification. She's also a soul inspiration who, in memory of her darkness and what she has gone through in her life, finds honor in sharing the process of turning her pain into purpose and used as a catalyst for change. Welcome back, Sister Emunah.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Brother Philippe. Thank you for having me. All praise be to the Most High. Greetings to everyone who's watching at this time.
Awesome. Now, you know, we had to watch Roots, and we had to, you know, it's rare, especially in this day and age, when you have a program that alters the behavior of the individual. And what I mean by that is, you know, back in the day when I'm old enough where I remember seeing the first Roots, and there was no social media, there was nothing, there was no video recording, there was nothing to record. You had to be home, sitting down in front of the TV at the time that it came on.
Yes.
The same thing happened this time. And that is, regardless of the fact that, you know, we could TiVo it or record it, I came home and I sat down and I watched it.
Mm.
And it was because it was extremely important. Talk to me about, we're going to be reviewing Roots and talking about the impact of Roots today as a 4-part series versus the 1976 version of Roots. What was your overall interpretation of this new miniseries?
I think it was like a remix. You know, you have your favorite song, and then all of a sudden they change the beat, the tempo go a little bit faster, and next thing you know, you're still jamming because you know the words. That's what it was like to me. It was like a remix. Again, I wasn't born at the time that the first Roots aired, but I have watched it. I own a copy of the set. I watched it a number of times when it came on TV because they've aired it after that. And I had it off of my own collection. So I found that some things were the same and some things were different. I guess because you saw someone else saying it. But it for me, it edified the conversation because bringing it back, like I was telling you earlier, in the way in which that people could understand today and the youth can understand today, that thread of what was in the original is still there, which is never forget and always you have to be responsible for teaching your own, no matter what circumstance or situation you may be in.
I really appreciate that. You're absolutely right. And that is, if you forget your history, you truly are owned.
Mm.
You truly are owned. And there are no forces on the other side that are trying to help you know your history. It is our responsibility.
It is. I'm glad you said that, Brother Philippe, because throughout the week, like I was telling you, I've been doing reviews. And yes. I hear about them. I hear about school. And I'm like, wait a minute. It's your responsibility. If you didn't get anything from this, they were in slavery, chattel slavery, and they still thought it was their responsibility to inform their children of who they are and where they come from. And so you think that, oh, they don't really teach Black history in school. It's only one. Really? Like you said, Brother Philippe, I'm going to go ahead and drink my water early. I'm not going to turn up too early for you guys.
No, go ahead, because you know, we were in the green room. I damn near turned the recorder on in the green room because we went at it in the green room. We was going at it. I mean, I was like, go ahead on, Emunah. I was about to preach and stand up and everything. I mean, so no, it's, you know, it's a passionate conversation because it is very real today. And you're right. We were in chattel slavery. And our ancestors made a point to share our story, to pass it on generationally. We are under now certain laws that create a mental chattel slavery, and as a result of that, even though we appear to be free, to have freedom of motion. It is more imperative now and to teach our own Black history and to learn our own Black history. I'm still learning. There's so much I didn't know. And I'll be 51 this year. You know what I'm saying? So it's an active process. We need to know it now more than ever. What I'm very disappointed about that I've seen is there are people who some of my people are embarrassed by it, don't want to talk about it. Then there's the flip side of it where they're just so damn angry they just want to go out and start beating up a white person. Just hey, what, poof, it's like, wait, no, we can't do that. We need to really become intellectual about this. We need to become conscious about this. Speak to me, Emunah, about some of the things that you've been seeing on social media and some of the comments that you've been coming up against just in your own reviews.
Yeah, I like what you just said, because it's something that I say all the time. We need to improve our emotional intelligence so that when we come to the conversation, we can do so and actually feel like when we leave here, we've accomplished something. If we're going like a elder used to always say, in this circular motion of reasoning, and there's no out, there's like a maze, you're trapped. And so how do we do this first? And then I'll tell you what I saw. I saw this, like I said, the first book I did was Angry Black Woman. It took me down the rabbit hole, and here I am. And so I realized I don't know, and a lot of us don't know. So we started the Lev Project, which I've been reading our narrative since January 1. We're 6 months in.
Wow.
Okay. There's so many people now who are starting to tune in and be very grateful for the work that we're doing, because again, it's a lot. Like you said, we're not even scratching the surface, but we have become so much better informed to even begin to have the conversation. What I realize is that a lot of people are just like slavery, bad, really bad. These are all the words, when we are younger, you're a 2-year-old or 1-year-old, and our vocabulary is not there to express ourselves. And so we just stay bad, really bad. And we have to elevate from that point. And the only way we're going to do that is to, like you said, face the material. It's difficult to watch. It is difficult, but the reality is it is a part of the history. Here's one thing. Here's one of the objections, social media objections that I found. Why do they keep telling that story? Why don't they tell about Mansa Musa or the kings of Ghana or the Ashanti or Egypt? Why do they keep telling this story? It's because they want to keep us down. This is one of the major objections that I keep hearing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Your retort to it.
Yeah. And so I say to that objection, in the process of healing, I give this analogy. If you once were a track star, let's say, or a basketball star, and you could fly like Michael Jordan, and you had some freak accident, right, that jammed up your knee and you all jacked up, how beneficial is it? It is good to remember, hey, I used to be this way. But how beneficial is it to keep repeating what you used to be when the reality is right now you have a bum leg? How do you fix that? How do you repair that so that you can return to that state of greatness? Oh, no, I don't want to talk about the leg. I don't want to talk about the accident. The only thing I want to talk about is how I used to fly before I got jacked up. This to me is the conversation. I don't want to talk about the injury at a very cellular level, a soul level. This injury goes deep, and we see that it still affects us today. So for me, it's like, how can you not talk about it?
Well, speaking of the injury, one of the greatest minds on the planet right now, who I've had on the show twice, and we have frequent conversations offline, is Dr. Joy DeGruy and post-traumatic slave syndrome. And she too comes up against this, and she understands. And in the book and in her work, the trauma has never been healed. How do you heal from 339 years of that level of trauma? Not including the trauma that came after that, after chattel slavery ended, with the KKK, with Jim Crow, with all of these things, with all of the laws and all. How do you, as Dr. Joy said, you broke my leg, and then every time you see me, you hit my leg again, and it never gets a chance to heal.
Right. Yeah.
And then you blame me for saying, "Ow, my leg hurts, it's broke," and you keep hitting it, and you're blaming me for it.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. That's That's what happens.
Yeah. So talk to me about the importance of not that I'm sounding crazy right now, but it also reminds me. I had an interview with my Dr. Myron Haley, who co-wrote Roots with her husband Alex Haley, and she was telling me a story about how she was doing a lecture, and this young black kid in college came up to her and said, "I don't understand why you wrote Roots. I don't understand what this is all about. Why is this important?" And he was in his 20s or something like that. And so that is, I think, a failure of perhaps my generation of not passing it on and passing the story down and making it mandatory, because I think there was this generation, particularly my generation, that tried to run so far away from roots and the memory of slavery and try to run toward this idea of the white picket fence of the American dream, that we got lost in translation as a result of that. And now our children are facing this dilemma where the trauma is still acting out and still playing out. But we don't know what to do to fix it, because now we're still getting angry, and it shows this epigenetic pain. When if you're angry about it, you're not healed from it.
Correct. You know what I said? Like I said, it's been 6 months. I've been doing a little test. And when I started off, no one wanted to hear it. We had a few people who were very resistant. I don't like these stories, Emunah, because they make me mad, and they make me angry, or whatever the case may be. I can't watch it. And let me tell you, 6 months later, I had a review. It's up. And this was one of the sisters who told me in the beginning she couldn't do it. But as we held each other's hand through every narrative that we read and allowed a space of which we can speak about, this is nothing high or beyond that we can't reach. It's actually something that's doable. When we allowed ourselves the ability to feel that pain and let it pass. It's like, okay, I've given birth to 4 children, 5 most I blessed. I lost 1, right? And when you feel the contraction, they say don't tense up.
Right.
Let that contraction, if you release and you try to relax, that contraction will go. This is the same type of mentality. And by the way, all those children with no pain medication. So understand, I'm not taking y'all for a ride. This is real talk. You understand what I'm saying? And so when you feel it build up, you relax. You don't tense up, you relax, and then you let it flow. You feel the emotion, and that because emotions are energy and they're fluid. And after you feel that emotion, let it flow. And then you channel it into something that's going to be positive, something that's going to be, so if you're angry, first you express what you're angry about, why you're angry. Maybe it's something in your epigenetics, in your family line, how it affected your life, and talk it through. And just have a community of people who are willing to have the conversation. Brother Philippe, 6 months later, my mother, who was one of them, who could not watch Roots.
Wow, okay.
Watched Roots.
That's powerful.
Okay, so understand that
testimony.
It's not going to happen overnight, and it has to be a willingness there to actually go through the process. And one more thing I found very important is not just reading one part of the narrative. There were 2 groups involved. There were quote unquote Europeans or quote unquote white people and quote unquote black people. Both narratives are important to get a very good perspective of what happened. Some people is like, I don't want to read that, but we don't know exactly what was in their mind. And some of their narratives tell you what they were thinking, what they were concerned with. And when we change the scope or the lens of which we're viewing this and step back a little bit and allow those feelings to pass through, trust me, your whole life will change. Because now I looked at Roots and didn't blink. I looked at it and didn't flinch. Because now I've allowed myself to process those feelings and emotions. And yes, at some points it is like, man, I felt that. But I'm feeling it at different points now.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I like the fact that you say that you didn't flinch and you're feeling it at different points. It's not that you're desensitized from it.
Right.
Like, we see like a video game or something like that. It's not that level of
No.
desensitization. It is an innate understanding and knowing and strength. And what I admire about you and the work that you are doing and continue to do, and the conversation that I've had many times with Professor Kabahia Kamane from Hidden Colors and Out of Darkness, and a new series that we're doing with Dr. Gabrielle Ibo of the God Almighty's Grand Unified Theorem, the greatest, most brilliant mind of our time in this world, in this lifetime, is that we are, by default, especially the African American, the strongest race and the most resilient race in recorded history. And the reason is because of what we have gone through and what we have came out on the other side. Now, granted, some of us are absolutely crazy as hell, right? Some of us are absolutely batshit. Pardon my French.
It's a coping
right? It's a coping mechanism. Some of us, alcoholics. Some of us have to have cigars and scotch every night. I don't know who that could be.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
But guess what? We survived. There is no other race in history that has been bred, that has been enslaved in chattel slavery, that has survived as we have survived. We are stronger, actually, than the Africans that came over on the ship as a result of that, because of the length of time of what it has taken for you and I right now to have this conversation about
it. You know what? And there is truth in there, because to go through, they say what don't kill you make you stronger.
Right.
So therefore, the ability to come through that and still stand. This is why, to many people, quote unquote, Black people are an enigma. Like, hold on, I've done all of this and you're still here. And some of you guys are actually flourishing. What in the world? What kind
of even possible? Exactly.
Yeah, what kind of superhuman beings are you people?
Exactly, because Lord knows we've done everything to try to keep your ass down, and you are still getting up.
And you know what it is, and I don't mean to digress off of the roots conversation, but I saw a little quote unquote Black boy the other day on social media where he was in a tug of war, and he was considerably smaller than this European boy. Like, it was clearly a mismatch. And this little boy was pulling him, and every time, it made me cry by the end, because every time he pulled him down, he got back up, and he was pulling, and everybody's like in amazement, like, how is he doing this? You understand? And it's that fight. What we have in us is that fight. What we have to understand is a fire. We have to know how to control it, because right now it's out of control.
It's that Mandingo warrior in us.
Well, everybody's not a Mandingo, but it definitely is the warrior.
No, everybody's not a Mandingo.
But
we definitely have a resilience and a strength that is, you can't even sometimes put it into words.
Agreed. And it's just for, like I said, Landon, what we were saying earlier, it feels like to have to defend why. And I'm glad you brought up Hidden Colors with the elder who's in Hidden Colors, because that's another thing I saw. I saw pitting roots against Hidden Colors. And I'm like, why are we pitting roots against Hidden Colors? Why is it not an and conversation? Why is it a more conversation?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The other thing that I also need to stress is, and because I am a product of a single mother, when you look at roots, and you have to understand what it took for a Black man, a warrior, to be in a position where he could do absolutely nothing to save his wife and children, to protect them. The strength of the Black woman is absolutely unparalleled and unbelievable. What a Black mother, a Black woman can do. Now, if you watch Roots, you understand the rape scenes where, Imagine if you come in and the master is raping your wife, and there's nothing you can do about it, because if you do, you will be killed, your children will be killed or sold, as well as your wife. Imagine the psychological trauma and drama of that. So there was strength in both, but there is an amazing strength in the black woman, even in the modern day black woman. There's just especially the single mother, because you know what, I look back on my mom, and I honestly, I don't know how she did it.
And you know what? And that you took me right back to the angry black woman syndrome. For this very necessary adaptation, she is demonized. She is belittled. She is spoken about. Why? Because like you said, and even in the scene yesterday, when Chicken George's son, Tom, comes in and they're raping his wife and he can do nothing. They're actually holding him down. And he has to, as a man, deal with that. And so oftentimes, and it's on the books based on what I have researched thus far, that men were more likely to run away. And we saw that with Kizzy's situation and ongoing, because the women were like, I have to stand and protect the family. And so oftentimes the men who couldn't take it anymore, they would go off, but she had to be raped, go back to work. You know, like the woman who died in the field because she was 7 months pregnant. They were working her hard and she died and her baby came out, which ended up being Noah. So like you said, this strength was not something like, I'm just going to be strong. It was a necessity. You needed to be strong in order to survive, because the 9 times out of 10, it was her. Kizzy could have left. And she said, no, I have to stay on for my family. Right. And they will go, and today, for us to realize that this was something that we needed to put on. One thing I think that's interesting, what she said in the narrative, is when the man wanted to marry her and he was a free man, she said, why do I need 2 masters? And understand, people are like, oh, black women, this, that, and beat up on, or understand some quote unquote black women are like, have gone to another level. But what she's saying is she never stopped working. She never came out the field. She has to answer to this European who cuts her check. And then when she comes home, she's bossed around again. When that in itself is out of order, because the man who's the provider, he's the primary one who's going to be providing. But it didn't go like that in slavery, and 9 times out of 10, it doesn't go like that today. Right. So the women are saying, well, the same thing Kizzy said. Well, if I got to go to work, do X, Y, and Z, and Z, why am I listening to you? It doesn't make it right. It just gives me anyway an understanding of why you say what you say and why a lot of women are feeling the way in which they feel. Because as a man, if the system or the environment is not allowing you to protect and provide, then she cannot be that vulnerable woman that you want her to be, because she has to be on alert.
Love that. Love that. Now, I know what's funny, Emunah, is, well, it's not funny, but for the people watching, Emunah has her babies around her. And so what you'll notice is that when I'm talking, she'll be looking, she'll be giving that mother look. You know that mother look when she give him the eye. You know what I'm talking about, Emunah. I glanced down and saw you giving that look, because it scared me. I was like, it's in me, epigenetically. My mama used to look at me like that. I was like, oh, Lord. You know, and I saw Emunah do it for her babies. I thought, oh, that's for her kids, not for me. All right, I'm good.
You good, Philippe. I had to give
it. No good, right? You know I ain't no good. I had to bust you out a little bit on that one. That was good. So if the babies come on screen, let the babies come on screen. It's all right. But some of the people looking like, what is she looking at?
Like that? Yeah, my babies are here. I don't go nowhere without them. They wait for me to do something so that they can move.
That's funny. Woo, that's good stuff. Listen, now, one of the things, so we talked about the strength of the black woman. Let's talk about, when we look at roots, what the black male tried to carry throughout, and the black female actually carried it out and then passed it on generationally. And that is the 2 most important aspects of a man's life. is the day that you were born and the day that you understand why.
Yeah, that was deep.
Talk to us about that and how that affected you and what.
Yeah, that was deep. That was something I had to write. You know, they had some little taglines. One, you know, you had to die. Oh wow, that was kind of deep right there. Yeah. And so, yeah, definitely. They took away the man's ability to be a man, and we understand that, you know. And so the woman had to be the person to step in that space, because oftentimes she was seen as less threatening. She was seen as more able to control. And we understand that. Hopefully we do. Well, I can't even say we understand it, because we still don't, because we're still arguing about that. And it's okay to identify what caused the initial injury, which was the institution of the chattel slavery. But what is not okay is to continue with the narrative and to not address it for what it is, and to say yes, and to then allow the so-called black men, because I don't like using that terminology, then to allow him that opportunity to be that protector. So it's like it was incremental that they did this. That's why in one of the spaces they said, you can't buy a slave. This is what the Europeans said.
Yes.
You have to make one, right? And so understanding that the process was, it was a process to make a slave. In the same way, it's a process to then get back to that free thinking, independent mind. So therefore, we have to give a space as women, because women like to be like, oh, you're not going to do that. You ain't got it together. I can't deal with this. But we have to understand it's a process. So you have to allow him the opportunity to prove that he's that provider, prove that he's protector. And he has to realize that within himself, epigenetically, mentally, emotionally, there are some things that are stopping you from stepping out and being that. And we have to be honest about the fact that, here's the one thing I said in another review. I liken the institution of slavery to domestic violence, right? Mm-hmm. And I say so because when I did some domestic violence research, some of the same things are there. You had the oppressor, you had the one that's abuser, you had, usually they're in a narcissistic mindset, and then you have the codependent, right? Which would be those who were enslaved. Mm-hmm. When something happens in a domestic violence situation and you still live in that house, everything reminds you about that incident. Now, fast forward to today, we are still, quote unquote, in the proverbial house of the incident. So it's kind of hard to forget, because you see the abuser every day. You pass by things that remind you of this. And so it's kind of hard to get beyond it. We also have to acknowledge that as well. And this is why.
That's beautiful. That is so brilliant, Emunah. Absolutely. I'm serious. That is brilliant.
That's Philippe running.
I love that. You know, I love you guys, because I just tell you all the time, I can't praise you enough. Your mind is brilliant. That was a great analogy.
And you know why? One day, last year, I was doing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It comes in October. And so I was studying slavery as well. And I'm having a conversation, and I'm having a conversation kind of like this. And then the elder says, well, domestic violence, slavery, you know. And when he said it, it clicked in my mind like I had an epiphany moment. I'm like, exactly. That's exactly what it was like. Because look, you were there on a domestic capacity. You were their servant. And so this abuse took place in this space. You understand what I'm saying? And so when you study domestic abuse, and this is also why oftentimes with this traumatic bonding that a lot of our people cannot get over the oppressor. So you show me roots, I'm going to talk about you. You understand what I'm saying? I'm going to talk about, oh, he doesn't like me, and he did this to me, and he did that to me. We can't see ourselves because we have been enveloped into the mind of the abuser. So this is why I'm like, when you begin to separate, you can say, okay, this is what I need for me. Whether it be an abusive wife, an abusive situation, because there are also women who abuse husbands as well. So my point of the matter is, the first thing for me as I'm hearing all of this kickback is separate yourself a little bit. Give yourself mentally and emotionally some distance, and allow yourself the freedom and the opportunity to process what you are seeing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's exactly what you need. You do need some time to process, because if you don't have the tools to control your mind, and I've had Dr. Howard Stevenson on, who has for the last 30 years taught these processes of racial socialization and healing. If you don't have the tools to calm your mind, still your mind, you can snap and do some crazy things, either externally or internally. That being said, because we're still in this domestic violence scenario, we're still in the house.
Right, you're still in the house.
If you will. And I love that. Love that. I'm having an Oprah moment.
Yeah, you have a moment too, right?
I'm serious. I'm like sitting here. I'm like, I'm in master class. What the hell just happened? But that being said, what I found interesting was pulling out of the show that it aired on Memorial Day.
They was mad about that too, by the way, but go ahead.
It aired on Memorial Day. I thought that, when we look at and another part of Roots, the underlying theme was the fear of retribution and the fear of retaliation and insurrection was always there, and it still is just as palpable today.
Correct. I agree. And this is why I said it's two stories being told. It's their story and our story. And like you said, they intersect, they overlap. And understand that when brutal force is being used against someone who's unarmed, it's that fear. They have their own residues from slavery in the same way in which we have ours. So this is not just about, when you see, I don't know how you can sit and watch and not realize that they are actually, this is an admission of guilt. To see what the European had done in that space and time and think that it's only for them to show you how much they had power over you. No, it's the admission of guilt that there was a level of lawlessness, that there was a level of inhumanity. You understand what I'm saying? And to put that on the screen for all the world to see, that's an admission of guilt.
Very good. I'm so glad I got you first, because you're going to be on Oprah. She's going to snatch you up.
You silly.
I ain't gonna be able to talk to you in a little bit, because hello, may I speak to you, Emunah? I'm sorry, you took she's on the Oprah show right now. She doesn't have time for you. Okay, I'm serious, but I've never heard that before. But now, it's just as you had the epiphany about the domestic violence, the epiphany for me. That's like, well, I'll be damned. Yeah, that's about right.
That's what about, if you change the way you look at things, think about it. In one of those scenes, I think it was the football player, I can't remember his name, where he was in the elevator and he hit his wife and she fell out.
Oh, Ray Rice.
And they got it on tape. That was proof that she was in a domestic violence, even if she wanted to deny it, and that they caught him on tape. Now, who spends millions of dollars to put themselves on tape to implicate? If you didn't read it in the book, I'm going to show you what it looked like. If we spin it around a little bit, we will get to understand that it's more than just, okay, this is how I beat you down. It's showing themselves and the world that there was something terribly wrong in the dynamic of being a human, one to another.
Yes.
Even in the duel, somebody said to me, from the review I did yesterday, do you think that duel was real? Brother Mike is his name. He's like, do you think the duel was real? And I'm looking it up to say they used to really do that stuff. So it wasn't only against you, as you saw when he was raping Kizzy and his wife was there. It was against everyone. The difference was when I read the narratives about when the sailors were on the ship and the sea captains, according to them, they used to treat these people terribly. And they will get flogged and they will get killed if they didn't follow instruction. So this culture bred this barbarous type behavior. It bred this violence. It bred this greed. And when something seeps out like that, this virus or this infection of the human spirit, it doesn't stop at color lines. That's a lie. It doesn't stop at color lines. They would do the same to one another, as they showed in yesterday's episode. I don't know if you saw at the very end, where he killed his wife because she was infiltrated. He hung her too.
Yeah. How about that? That was amazing.
How about that?
Yeah, yeah. That was I forgot about it in the first one, and I saw it, and when I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And that happened. That was just that story that happened so much that they killed their own
Yes.
wives and children.
Yes.
Because their mind was so warped, they were so sociopathic.
Yeah.
That the abolitionists, they would kill and hang the abolitionists, and I forgot her name, I want to say Paquin or something, Anna Paquin or something, I think is her name, but she played Rogue in the first X-Men. So for people who want to know who we're talking about, and she was working with Mekhi Phifer's character, and she was a spy.
Right.
And she told her husband, she says, I believe this is morally and spiritually, I believe slavery is morally and spiritually wrong.
Right.
That you go to church every Sunday and pray to God, and God does not condone this. I'm paraphrasing, but this is what she said. And he ended up killed the son of the master of the house, a slave owner. Killed both Mekhi Phifer's character and his own wife. That's how deeply ingrained, that's how insidious the sickness and sociopathic behavior of racism. And I don't even want to call it racism. At that level, it's just hate.
At that level, like I said,
it's just hate. Racism is just the out picture.
Yeah,
it's right. Right, it's the symptom. Racism is the byproduct, like the exhaust out of your car. But the premise is that you hate so much. Now let's take it from the European perspective.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel that you are absolutely nothing, when you feel you have no skills, no core competencies, and you feel lower than life, you hate yourself.
Right.
When you see, and now I interviewed and have on my network as well, Dr. Jacqueline Battalora. Dr. Jacqueline Battalora wrote the book, Birth of a White Nation.
Right.
This is where in 1681, the anti-miscegenation laws were created, and a cluster of them thereafter that created the legal force for chattel slavery and created a new bottom. Because at one point, even though there was always slavery, there was not chattel slavery, but there was always slavery.
Right.
That when this country originally was occupied or what have you, that there were black folk, Africans, there were Europeans, Polish, whatever, all living together, working together. Some blacks owned slaves, whites owned slaves, whites owned each other, blacks owned each other, and that. But you were indentured, you were able to work it off, pay it back, that sort of thing. It wasn't until they made these laws that they created a new bottom, where they said, after Bacon's Rebellion, they said, okay, the elite, the 1%, which we still have today and always will, said, okay, we need to set something up where the middle class, which is what they are now today, and the lower class of whites feel empowered, but won't come after our wealth and won't challenge our wealth. And so as a result, they stripped our rights away. So if you were at that moment, the word white became an actual legalized race. There's no such thing in American history. At that point, even though there was I'm sure, resentment, from the Moors, and we can go into ancient history and all of that sort of thing. But here in America, at that point, the white race was created. And that new bottom, Mexicans, blacks, you couldn't sue, you couldn't own gunpowder, you could not marry outside of your race, you were not a natural citizen unless you were white. All of that became the aspect of what chattel slavery is. So the insecurity of the European is almost incomprehensible when you have to set those kind of laws, that type of agenda for an entire nation.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I have the book, and like as you can imagine, so many things to read. Like I said, just the surface. I got that book because I found it interesting when you told me about it, and it's just that we fell for it. You know, as somebody, and you see that and to tie what you're saying into roots, you see it in the Chicken George character when Tom Lee, the one who raped Kizzy, when he is on the wagon telling his, you know, how I came up story and how he used to be poor, because again, like you're saying, the Irish, the race construct was for us to be typecasted, but amongst themselves, they still know, oh, you Irish, you lower than us. You're not an Englishman, you're not a Frenchman, and blah blah blah. So the character of Tom Lee is that he was like, and this is why he's dueling. This is why he's fighting, because he's not accepted, although he's, in their terminology, white, he's still not accepted in white society. And you could see that his self-esteem was tied to the exploiting the ability of, first it was Mingo and then it was Chicken George to make him fortune. So he was still, like you're saying, didn't have for himself his own talents and abilities, and he looked to exploit other people's talents and abilities for him to profit. Same thing.
And there is where the term white privilege can be inserted. Right? Because people say, oh, I don't believe in white privilege. Well, yes, you should. Why? Because if you use slaves to do and build your institutions, your homes, your businesses, the country, what was your contribution?
Right. You know where that came up also in another narrative that just finished a few weeks ago, Underground. There was a bunch of European men in the room, and the slave master was there, and he said, how many? They're arguing about is cotton king, and so they asked the question, well, who would be willing to work this cotton? Basically the man said, I wouldn't be willing because that's a lot of hard work. And then the guy, he dismisses him to say, oh, don't mind him. He's just been hanging around Negroes all day. So the reality is, I want to profit. I want to benefit from your labor. And if I had to do it myself, everybody wouldn't be wearing no cotton because I'm not going out there in the field to do it.
Exactly. So, you know, this is going to be an ongoing conversation.
Yes.
The theme of our conversations, because we're gonna get down, dirty, gritty with it.
Indeed.
And we're going to heal some people.
Prayerfully.
We are going to heal some hurts that you are carrying around right now that you can't even articulate because you've had it so long you can't even put words to it. We're going to have conversations, Emunah and I, that are going to cause you to probably just break down and cry and fall to your knees. We're gonna have conversations that are gonna heal what she calls Soulonomics, heal and touch your soul. Just before the dawn, it gets the darkest, and so yeah, you might have to go through some pain to get to the profit and get to the pleasure. But it's there. This is who we are. If you understand this, you are the strongest male or female in the world right now. Nobody can touch you. Nobody has your story. Nobody has your strength. Nobody has your courage. So if you can just get that, even regarding now, you're going to have to learn how to blank and take out everything that is around you. You might be struggling. You might be dirt poor. You might be on the street, anything. You are still the best of the best.
And you know what I want to say to that, Brother Philippe? Just to add into what you were saying. I remember, you know, when people watch a lot of times the Olympics and races, marathons, and you see Ethiopians running and running and running, like they could run for days and don't get tired, right? Their strength is bar none when it comes to long distance training. When I went to Ethiopia, I realized why.
I'm loving this story. Go ahead.
Understand that Addis Ababa, as a city, is elevated very high, and so go ahead. And so the oxygen level is because you're so, no, let her open it. Because so
every time, it's always at the end of our show.
I know.
So I just love them so much.
They're funny.
Just precious.
They've been giving me eye movements the whole time. And so the oxygen level, you have to learn to breathe again, because this is the extreme conditions that you're leaving under. When you're walking mountainous region, I mean, literally, I had to go with my mountain boots and walk up inclines that like almost at a 45, no exaggeration. Some days I wouldn't go outside because I was just that tired. But
wow.
What it did after a couple of months is that the training, like Brother Philippe says, the strength that we have, we don't know, because we're still in a situation where that's what is that resistance training is what it is. Because when you want to be the best at something, you have to have resistance training. That's the hurdles, that's the obstacles. When you go on even level playing field, you are going to outdo the competition. So correct. I say that to say, after about 8 months there, I came back to America. I'm like, I felt almost like a super, because the oxygen level in my blood was ridiculous. You understand what I'm saying? Right. And because I sing. So when I sung for the first time, I'm like, whoa, is that me? Because I didn't realize that resistance training of being so high up in the mountains for so long, when you come down, that's like Rocky running up them stairs. Exactly. You understand what I'm saying? They can't touch you after that. That's like running on the beach and then walking on, I used to be in track, and then walking on, when you run on the beach and then run on a regular track, because of the resistance of the sand, when you get on level playing field, you're out of this world. Absolutely. And by the way, big up to Jamaica for all of the fast runners coming out of the JA, and they wonder how we do it. So when we say that you are strong, it's not hype. You have been through so much resistance training that when you get the proper tools, the sky is the limit and beyond.
Absolutely. And the proper tools is consciousness. The proper tools is knowledge. The proper tool is wisdom. The proper tool is knowing your history and honoring your history.
What I gotta tell one more story, Brother Philippe. And I know we coming down to that. This knowing your history thing, okay? And people keep saying why. Let's go back to roots just to show you once again. I know I said it at the beginning, and so I'll say it at the end. They didn't think, at one point, Chicken George was like, I don't want to hear that story about that old African again. But there is an incompleteness in the soul, because that's why I said Soulonomics. I'm all about the soul, and that's where hurt resides. That's where the pain resides. That's where joy resides. It's in that immaterial part of you, that part of you that still exists when you're sleeping. Mm-hmm. That part where if you lose something, you feel it there. He knew that it was there because his mother kept reminding him of this thing. But at the very end of the movie, he knew the actions, but he didn't know the words.
Yes.
You notice that?
Yes.
He knew that I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm supposed to be saying something, but I don't quite understand. He said, help me, he says to his father. And his father didn't quite know the words to say.
Right, right. But he knew the movements, because that's the epigenetics. It's in us.
It was in us, but he's like, is this the right spot? Can I see the sky? Is it the right time? But he didn't know to say to the child, look up and behold the only thing greater than yourself, which is the creator who created everything else here is on even playing field. We just have to begin to understand that.
Absolutely. There it is.
And that was so powerful. I was ready to be like, come on. How could you not glean from this? I don't.
Absolutely. All right. So Emunah, you know I'm on cloud 999 every time I have a conversation with you.
Beautiful.
So we're gonna continue this conversation, and what I like to do is just make we'll just reference roots and the show, I guess, throughout our conversations, because there's a lot of parallels. There's a lot of great nuggets of wisdom in there that we can use to help raise the collective consciousness of melanated minds and melanated people in this country and around the world.
I agree. You know what I would say? What I find the most beneficial, because I hear the elders, I hear the scholars who say it's kind of hard when they get a lot of the information and to translate it to those who weren't on the journey. So I'll say this, it's a little bit difficult. What I learned just on the ground is that this African proverb that I say because I like it is that if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So when we have these down to earth conversations where we can participate and each one has a voice, and we just had, we have epiphanies together, we have moments of aha together, and when we're not just off in our little cubicle studying and then saying, and look at what I have found. But if I say, listen, I don't know either, or I just know a little bit more than you do, and let's discover it together, that is something memorable. That's called making memories together. That's called we are in it together. And for me, it bonds more.
Absolutely. I love that.
Together more. Yeah.
I love that. All right, Emunah, you know, we have a 6-second delay before I hit that little button. So I just want to say, stick around with me in the green room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being with me. Thank you for being a part. This is the first part of a mini series and conversations and discussions that we're going to have with Emunah Y'srael. Please, if you haven't done so already, go get the book, Angry Black Woman Syndrome, and the B-Midbar Journal.
And we have a new book. We have a children's book, Brother Philippe.
Yeah, that's right. Tell me a little bit about that real quick.
My brother, my keeper, I wrote it with my 8-year-old, so I'm not just talking. I'm really high on literacy, communication, storytelling, and so we wrote this story together. It was published earlier last month. It was released last month. It's called My Brother, My Keeper. It's a children's book, chapter book, and I think your children would definitely love it. It's about morality, family, homeschooling, and it's all woven into, even money accountability is in there.
That's good.
Yeah,
good
how
stuff.
to manage your ducats, you know.
Well, talk about telling your story. This is going to be great because that will just be part of the narrative, because all of it is about telling your story. So that's what you're doing with your babies. Yes. And writing books together, telling your story, sharing your history. This is what it's about. So let's just be, as Gandhi used to say, be the change you wish to see.
You know, that's my favorite quote right there. I got
in the world. Let's just be that change. Yeah, let's just be that change by having these very hard conversations that are very at the heart of our conversations as well.
And I just want to say one thing with that, be that change. That's one of my favorite quotes. But here's the thing. It doesn't take that much to be the change, because you could have 1 cent change or 99-cent change. Change is change. You understand? And so if you just do one thing differently, if you just put a little more effort in this area, you will begin to see a difference in your life and by extension, the lives of those in and around you.
Now you see why I have her on the network, people? You see why I have her? That's why. That stuff right there, what she just did. That's why I love her.
I don't know.
It just
comes to me, Brother Philippe. It just downloads it. The Most High downloads it in my spirit. You know, analogies. It's the artist.
You gonna wake up one day. You are gonna be walking down the street and Oprah just gonna be chasing you.
Nah, don't chase me.
Boy, I'm telling you, you're gonna be on somebody's national television show. You're gonna be on some network. Something's gonna happen because you are necessary. You are needed. And you are an absolute blessing. Thank you so much for sharing your life.
Thank you so much for having me, Brother Philippe.
All right, sweetheart. Stick around with me in the green room. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Philippe Matthews Show, After Hours, and our network. Take care, everybody.